50 points to the winner. Kentucky Derby qualifier starts this Saturday. It's the Risen Star. It's a huge race. Past winners include Gunrunner, Epicenter, Sierra Leone, amongst many others. And Bailey Armour and I are going to talk about it in two different ways. First, we're going to talk about an angle that maybe can help you out, maybe help you cash a winner. And then I'm going to try to talk Bailey off one of the likely favorites in the race. It's time for Horse Sense. Let's get to it.
Welcome back to Horse Sense. I'm Bailey Armour, joined alongside the illustrious Scott Shapiro. And this week, we're going to dive into one of the biggest races on the calendar this Saturday at Fairgrounds. That's the Risen Star Stakes, the first 50-point race on the road to the Triple Crown. They've got a full card of 14 races at Fairgrounds this Saturday. And alongside those, we've got some exclusive promotions from Xpressbet and Firstbet. I'm so excited. I can't even get my words out. We've got a 2 million first rewards point hit and split on the late pick 4, which starts in race 11. And we've got a $10 money back special on the Risen Star itself, where if the horse you bet to win comes in second or third, you'll get your cash back up to $10. It's easy and it's foolproof. And personally, it allows me to take a swing at some horses that I might not play otherwise with this special promotion. So with that, those are your retail promotions this week. Scott, what have we got on the tournament side?
Yeah, I'll get to the tournaments in a moment, but I will have a article up on Friday. So depending on when you watch this, it may or may not be up yet, but it will discuss both of those promotions at Fairgrounds, the hit it, split it, as well as the money back special. In terms of promotions, we've got the Beat the Host continuing on, and it's the illustrious, I'm going to use your word, JP, as we call him, Jeremy Plonk, as the world calls him, will be the Beat the Host competitor that you'll have to try to take down. And then on Saturday, there's as well a $500 Santa Anita challenge. Just go to the website and the tournaments tab for full details on that. But a busy week at Firstbet and Xpressbet for sure. Well, the Risen Star always comes up strong, it seems. Past winners, as I mentioned in the introduction, Gunrunner, and then Epicenter. Last year, it was Sierra Leone won. We know we won the Breeders' Cup Classic. So this race is almost always strong, especially now where it falls on the calendar, the mile and an eighth. Horsemen love this as the truest test to date you can get for your hopeful Derby prospect. And we've got a big return of number 4, East Avenue, in here. We haven't seen him since he didn't break well from the inside when he was expected to be the speed horse in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. We also have Jonathan's Way, who raced once after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It was kind of short rest back in the Kentucky Jockey Club where he ran second. He returns for Phil Bauer. And then we've got horses that we've seen run already as 3-year-olds. Built, of course, who got second in Lecomte and won the Gunrunner. So it's a fun race, full field. We're going to start to sort things out a little more on the road to the Derby, Bailey, this Saturday. I'm looking forward to it.
It's a huge field and a really, really good day of racing at the Fairgrounds this year. But there's a couple horses when I was going through the field last night that I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of confused on why they're here. And obviously, I'm not a horse trainer, so some people know more than I do. But this is where I landed on the number 7, Septarian. On paper, this is a horse that makes no sense to have in this race. The entire female family of this horse is all turfy. They're all European. But, I mean, as you very well know, Chad doesn't bring horses here to mess around at Fairgrounds. He's like 60% win percentage at Fairgrounds just in the last year alone, when he, typically runs in other jurisdictions. So for me, this isn't a horse that would immediately, I'm like, oh, he's fully a lock. But if Chad is bringing them here, maybe he is.
Yeah, Septarian. It's funny you mentioned this horse. It's as if we talked about it beforehand. But Septarian has had 3 starts, all of them at one turn. He had 2 starts as a 2-year-old for trainer Javier Contreras. Not overly familiar with him, clearly in the Mid-Atlantic. 2 slow starts, 2 dominant wins. It appears since then he was privately purchased by Resolute Bloodstock, which is Mr. John Stewart, who's been purchasing horses right, left, and center of late. Now, on the surface, I see what you see, the pedigree, turfy. You look on paper, kind of treated like a sprinter thus far. But I'm going to apply an angle here, maybe a couple. But the main one is the use of blinkers for different horses, the way trainers use blinkers, different trainers. You can find plenty of trainers that use blinkers. The first time they put them on is a stab. Their stats show it. They win at 5%, 7%. It's usually not a good sign. Oftentimes you'll see them take them right back off in the next start. Not the case for Mr. Chad Brown, who wins a lot of races. You mentioned his recent horses that he shipped to fairgrounds, some of the turf races he's won, but the two that really stand out were Zandon and Sierra Leone. Zandon, of course, third in the Derby to should have been Epicenter, Rich Strike. And then last year, of course, Sierra Leone, second in the Derby, probably should have been third via DQ, but obviously redeemed himself in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Chad sends this horse that doesn't make a lot of sense on paper. I dug into it more. He's got Flavian Pratt aboard. He puts the blinkers on first route. 5 for 10 over the last 2 years when he had with a horse going first route. So clearly a combination of things leads me to believe that this horse is training very well. I know he finished third in a race, the Mucho Macho Man, that looks kind of not that great right now because Guns Loaded did not run well back in the Holy Bull, and Treaty of Rome had a very uncomfortable and bad effort in the Sam Davis. But I don't think that matters much. I think this horse is at its best. The blinkers going on, kind of Chad showing you this horse is live, and the fact that he's got Pratt and ships this horse in to the fairground. So I know I'm going to have to prove it to you, I bet, in this spot, but hopefully applying that angle will prove worthwhile because he's probably going to be a pretty decent price.
I don't disagree with you there from a horseman's perspective. So horses have, in case you didn't know, horses have almost a 350-degree field of vision. They're obviously prey animals, so eyes on either side of their head. They can see and almost entirely directly behind them. Their only true 2 blind spots are right in front of their nose and right in front of their tail. So putting those blinkers on, and they can't see things like above them, like their eyes don't really look up as well as people's do. Putting those blinkers on and getting the horse to kind of round his back and come up under himself, put his head down, allows him to see strictly only what's in front of him, so he can't see this field behind him. And Chad, it worked well for Sierra Leone. Of course, then he had his lugging out and in issues and had to change his bit and everything. Hopefully we won't run into this with Septarian, but the blinkers on, especially for a big, strong colt like this, it usually works out.
Gelding, don't let it be confused. He knows it. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's an interesting horse. And, unlike the other horses, Sierra Leone and prior to that, Zandon does come in with less of a resume for 2 turns. But all of this either points to Chad not having a great horse, not having a better option. I just don't see it as that. I think this is an aggressive move for him sending this horse here. Maybe Pratt was going to ride whoever he sent in, but I don't know if that's the case either. But either way, hopefully Septarian can prove the applying angle correct and get home at a pretty good price under the best rider in the country. I can't say world. I don't know enough.
We'll say world. We'll hype him up.
Harriet and others definitely have a chance to spring the upset, but there's no doubt a couple of 2-year-olds from last year are the headliners in here, as well as Built, who's proven himself as a 3-year-old. But Jonathan's Way, the Ohio bred, was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and so was East Avenue, who's actually the 9-5 favorite in there, and he's going to go off favorite in here. Bailey, I'm not sure where you stand on East Avenue and Jonathan's Way amongst this great field, but I have a feeling you probably think at least one of them has a decent chance to win this.
I need you to dust off my chalky hands and talk me off of East Avenue. When I did my handicapping here, I didn't realize that he was fully the 9-5 favorite because I pulled the files before the odds were out and it didn't look. So of course I land on this favorite after looking at this big full field, but this is a really nice horse and I don't think anyone can discount that. He had, kind of a shitty, pardon my French, start to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, got bumped at the start, and he was my pick going into the Juvenile, and he's still my pick going into this race. His dam is a half to Cody's Wish, so we know that this family is really, really talented. Brendan Walsh does pretty well off of a layoff. And last October, when he won the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, he won going pretty quick out of the gate on a day that favored closers. So for me, I think this is a really, really classy horse. I'm not going to jump off of the train that I was on before the Breeders' Cup, unless you have some incredible wisdom for me, but all day, East Avenue.
Well, look, I mean, I always love trying to talk people off of favorites. It doesn't mean that I'm against East Avenue tremendously in this spot. I think he's the likeliest winner. If he runs like he did in the Breeders' Futurity, he'll probably just prove faster to the front than this field, despite it looking like there's other speed, and might be dominant. But I think there's some big ifs to worry about here, and mainly because of the price. If he was 8-1, I would be not worried one bit at all about what I'm about to say. But one, he hasn't raced in a long time. The last time he raced, he had a poor experience getting out of the gate slow. I'm not holding it against him that he didn't run well in that race, but how did he come out of that race? And he hasn't raced since. A lot of this crop could easily have caught up to him by now. A lot of these top 2-year-olds never get back to their 3-year-old start. So there's that. And then you have the fact, what if he's keen off the layoff like horses often are? You would expect him to be a little bit more keen. The alternative is probably a really poor break, so you kind of want that. Well, you got American Promise on the inside. Jonathan's Way might show speed. There's some other speed in this full field. Will he be able to handle any heat? He's never really proven it because he's been too dominant in both of his starts, both in Kentucky, those wins. So there really is no in between for East Avenue. It seems to me like he might stamp himself amongst a few other contenders as the Derby prospects, or like we've seen way more times than we haven't, we're going to forget East Avenue ran in the Risen Star in a month. And I don't mean that as a knock on Brandon Walsh, the Dolphin, or their horses. Derby 2-year-olds oftentimes just regress and we don't see them, or maybe he'll end up running in the Pate Mile. He's got a lot to prove still, Bailey. I could go back and show you plenty of 2-year-old champs or close there to it that have done nothing as 3-year-olds.
Okay, that's a fair point. I will give you that. And we have discussed that at length, that horses tend to, maybe blossom as a 2-year-old and then not quite come back into that form. But I think East Avenue is going to break that mold here. I mean, favorites win 30% of the time for a reason. Am I wrong? No.
Well, I mean, look, this is going to come. These sequences are often going to, the segments, I should say, are going to come across as me not liking and hating on the horse that you like. That's kind of the part of it. But oftentimes they're going to be shorter price horses, and you want to try to poke holes in them before you invest your day in. Sounds like you might invest your day in singling East Avenue in a pick 4. You just want to think it through before you do so. And that's kind of the point of this exercise. For me, East Avenue pick for second. I am going to go with Septarian, who I mentioned liking in the previous sequence. He'll be a much bigger price, but I think he has a chance to finish last as well.
Hey, we'll see head-to-head East Avenue versus Septarian in the Risen Star on Saturday. If you made it this far, all the way to the end of this week's Horse Sense, you might have seen that our names were flipped while we filmed today. Just pretend it's opposite day, and everything we said still holds water, covering the Risen Star card at Fairgrounds this Saturday. Make sure you play in that $10 money back special with Xpressbet on the Risen Star Stakes and earn your 2 million point hit and split on the late pick 4 starting in race number 11 at the Fairgrounds. Thank you so much for watching.